After finishing up the Deathless series, I thought it'd be fun to try the reverse. This was a terrible idea. Nobody has successfully completed Pacifist StarCraft before, and it's pretty obvious why. RTS is not made for pacifism. So welcome to the story of the hell I decided to put myself through for no real reason. The rules are simple. No killing enemy units or buildings unless they're required objectives, no intentionally attacking enemies, I'm not responsible for the actions of my allies, and play on normal, because there's no way that this is even vaguely possible on anything more difficult. Liberation Day is the start, and it's already rough. After running past the first few packs of enemies comes the allied drop pods. I don't grab them fast enough and my forces brutally murder an innocent Dominion Marine, and I have the first reset. In my next attempt, I managed to slip by without a kill. Next is the truck. I send Jim in to tank, pull him back at the halfway mark, and charge my Marines through. After entering the Dominion facility, a group of unaffiliated civilians show up and start firebombing the Dominion. Taking advantage of this unrelated chaos, I slip one Marine into the corner and take out the Dominion headquarters while a Viking kills everybody that's waiting for the potty. The headquarters dies, and 5 kills. We need to talk about score screens before we can truly get into this run. They're incredibly inconsistent. Sometimes killing objectives counts as kills. Sometimes my allies killing stuff counts. In this instance, the AI civilians threw firebombs and got 5 kills, and they counted. Every time something like this happens, I will briefly go over what happened because it's a little bit interesting. One thing I find really charming about YouTube is how you can click on a video and come out the other side with an incredibly in-depth understanding of something that will never impact your life at all. Today, you're going on the world's most comprehensive masterclass on how SCV repairing works. I can confidently say that without the ability to repair buildings and mechanical units, this run would be strictly impossible. Enemies will attack, and repairing their target is the only way we can contest them. I'll save the graphs for later, but basically, the cost to repair a building from 1 HP to full is equal to 25% of the building's cost. This means that high HP, cheap buildings are ideal to wall with. Barracks are pretty decent for that reason. As soon as the first attack hits, my income will slowly diminish. As more enemies show up, more repairing will be required. Eventually, repairing will cost more than I have income, I'll run out of money, and die. Fortunately, on the Outlaws, the enemy only attacks once at the 9-minute mark, and with only 2 Marines. I can take my time. I build up a 150 supply army, head out, and bring my barracks to support. The objective is a bit tricky here. I must eliminate every Dominion building without damaging a single unit. The enemy Marines hurt, but the Hellions are the worst. I can't micromanage my units to avoid fire and not attack at the same time. Once I reach the Bunker of Death, I get it burning and move on. If I killed it now, the enemies inside would start chasing me. As I target fire every building, the Terrans shred through me. I get cleaned up with a single enemy factory remaining. It's low. All I have to do is get it burning. I land my barracks and start producing Marines. This doesn't go well. I run out of money, all my barracks die, and the factory survives. But I have one final hope. This mission has a special trigger. If the player loses all of their SCVs, Jim flies in a dropship with a bunch more to help out. I take the reinforcement boys, load them into the command center, and float over to the factory. They will die, but the factory will burn down before the Dominion can kill my command center. Before you ask, yes, every single mission in this run is going to be this painful. There is no happiness here, only SCVs, medics, and pain. Normally 0 hour would be the exception. In every challenge run I've ever done, this mission has been an absolute joke. Here is where it gets its revenge. After destroying my heretical missile turrets and grabbing the money on the map, I set up my wall. The majority of the mission is fairly unexciting. My goal is to get the ramp so clogged with Zerg that it gets to a point where enemy reinforcements just can't attack. For the most part, this works really well. Unupgraded Zerglings don't kill buildings quickly, but there is one problem: Mutalisks. Mutas rain on my day for a few reasons. Obviously, my wall isn't going to help much against these flying units. On top of that, their glaive attack bounces to 2 additional targets. This kills my SCVs. The answer I came up with is a giant pile of medics. This puts me in a very weird minigame through the rest of the mission. As the muta number increases, I have to make sure that each one is targeting a different medic, otherwise my forces will die. This means I have to jiggle my medic ball around occasionally until the mutalists change their target to something that I'm happy with. As I do this, I find the most annoying roadblock in the run. For some reason, Hydralists specifically will randomly decide to stop attacking my buildings and kill my workers. It keeps happening. Other ranged units don't do it that often, but Hydras will decide that one SCV in particular is going to have a bad day and just murder them. There doesn't seem to be any real rhyme or reason as to when this happens. Most of the time, a few SCVs isn't life or death. On 0 hour, it absolutely is. I get broken and die. After reloading a couple times, I keep going, and the Hydras are randomly nicer. And then I run out of money and die anyway. After losing about 10 times with 1 minute left, I take a step back and reflect on my strategy. Engineering bays are slightly cheaper to repair than the barracks I was working with. It turns out that over the 20 minutes, that extra cost added up and ran me dry. I decide that I have to fully reset the mission and build 2 engineering bays in the wall instead of 1. With a combination of an improved wall, good Hydralisk luck, and better Medic Blob micro, it's still not enough to hold the wall. As the Zerg bust me, I do the only honorable thing a Terran can do. Lift all my buildings and float to the corner of the map. With 1 command center and 1 barracks alive, the timer expires and I can move on. I was really excited for smash and grab when I was planning out this run. Normally when trying to race a Zerg to get to the artifact, fending off both Protoss and Zerg forces is a pain. But this time, having 2 enemies is great. Most of the time, my starting forces don't get to do much, but today they have a job. I charge the Protoss force that normally attacks at the 1 minute mark and pull them over to the Zerg, where a Spinecrawler takes 2 of them down. Thanks, Kerrigan! Smash and grab was a nice reprieve from the insanity of the run. This time, I get to taste that sweet cheese. I lift my barracks, float them over to the arena at the end of the mission, and prepare my wall back at home. Once my barracks arrive, they land and start producing Marauders. After getting about 20 Marauders and Medics at the objective, I lift off my command center, drop SCVs on the bonus objectives, and take out the Stone Zealots without issue. And another score screen problem. 2 kills. That's a weird one. There are 3 Stone Zealots, so what's going on here? After testing, for whatever reason, the first 2 Stone Zealots count as kills, while the final one doesn't. Sure, StarCraft, you do you. Between missions, I get both medic upgrades. There are very few upgrades in this run that actually do anything. But not needing a tech lab is great for the early game, and increased healing is going to save me many times throughout this run. I head to Devil's Playground next. The speedrun of this mission only takes a few minutes. I figure I can do something similar. My strategy is pretty simple. I grab my Reapers and send them to other rescuable Reapers, taking small detours on the way to grab money pickups. As one Reaper makes it to the next group, I can keep the chain going. The Zerg attack pretty early here, and I thought it was going to be a problem, but they didn't hear the evacuation order for the lava, and unfortunately, they couldn't make it out in time. This led to the tragic loss of many beautiful animals. I tried to use a barracks to give the bonus objective Brutalisk a lava bath, but he was having none of it. This is the first of many bonus objectives that I have to skip in this run. My laboratory research is going to be permanently lagging behind. After the lava recedes, my Reapers jet through the Zerg bases and grab all the money that I need. The evacuation is a bit of an oddball here. Missions normally are divided into 2 categories: repair things until I win, or run past stuff and snipe the objective. Escorting a third party across the map presents a few challenges, but has a nice upside. They have guns. Unfortunately, they kinda suck. But if I can keep my allies, Marines, and APC alive, they will be able to kill things, which is very neat. The first escort is a free win. I produce medics, and the single-digit number of enemies that strike are cleaned up by the AI. But the next waves won't be that easy. My plan is to hold each attack path the Zerg can strike, repairing all 3 of them simultaneously. This doesn't work. I get broken and die. 1 base income and single SCV production wasn't enough to sustain these walls. I'm gonna have to get a bit more creative. In my next attempt, I try walling with command centers. Despite costing almost twice as much per hit point to repair, the command center has a couple perks. First is the included SCV production. Second is that the command center can fly, meaning I can slowly let enemies through when they need instead of building them up forever. The downside to getting these command centers running is speed. I cannot produce enough medics to finish the first escort wave. The APC is destroyed and only 6 of 10 civilians manage to make it off-world. And then something weird happens. The second escort comes and goes, but only a couple Zerglings attack. The second wave generally strikes from 3 angles with more units and multiple Hydralisks. I think the game determines the size of the attack not on which escort is happening, but how many colonists have escaped. This means that I lost so many colonists that the game thinks I'm on wave 1 still. This is incredible. One would think that I now need a 6th escort to get over 50 colonists, since they come in batches of 10, but that isn't quite correct. The 4th wave sends 12 colonists and the 5th sends 14. Meaning from here, 5 escorts will give me what I need. This was not at all planned. I didn't know about this game state of being so bad that you redo the level 1 attack, but it's really helpful. This process continues. The game looks at the 3rd escort, sees only 16 colonists have been saved, and sends level 2 attack instead of level 3. At this point, pressure has been so low for so long that I have a ton of medics and SCVs, so I do the escort with no trouble. After this wave completes, there are groups of enemies at each of the walls, so I try lifting my command centers, and to my surprise, with no escort to hunt down, the Zerg just go home. This mission is blessed. The final 2 escorts aren't easy, but they're not horrible either. I use an enormous blob of SCVs following the APC to create a force field around it. Repairing SCVs have a lower targeting priority than attacking units, meaning the Zerg will try to get to the APC and ignore the SCVs. Though if you do this long enough, the Zerg will wisen up and start to attack. But it buys enough time that my losses are minimal. Eventually I do lose my walls and can't rebuild them because of the creep spread. But because the Zerg don't send the correct waves and peace out instead of attacking me with their army after the convoy escapes, I can start preparing for the next wave straight away. Somehow, everything just worked, and I have no idea why. Feeling confident, I decided to head to the Great Train Robbery. This was a poor decision. The entire mission's mechanic is that I'm limited on money. This makes repairing against the early attack waves take almost all of my income. This would have been more manageable if I had an army to work with. Unfortunately, the mission's unlocked unit is the Diamondback. The Diamondback can fire while moving, and it hits like a truck. The 6 that I rescue around the map keep killing people despite being on a move command. But without their damage, I can't kill the trains without the escort taking me down. After a few resets, I change up my strategy. If my minerals are tied up in repairs, I'll go for a gas-heavy unit. And if I can't fight the escort, I'll just ignore it. I head back to the Hyperion and get the KD8 charge upgrade for the Reaper. This ability targets the ground and explodes after 3 seconds, dealing massive damage. With this incredible ability, I learn that the radius is enough to hit the escorting forces as well. Nope. I'm going to Outbreak to get some better units. Heading here was a good decision. I thought Outbreak would be a monster of a mission, but it ended up being pretty easy. The first night was by far the scariest. I start with next to no income and could barely afford to repair against the infested damage. But the zombies are limited in a big way. During the first night, they're all melee. No matter how many there are, only a fraction of them can hit my engineering base. Once the sun rises, the zombies spontaneously combust and I'm clear for a while. The buildings on the mission have light armor, but annoyingly the anti-light Firebat and Hellion can't actually be used here. Each building also spawns broodlings when killed. The area damage of the fire units would accidentally kill them. So I go Mass Reaper. The Reapers are great against the buildings but have issues with broodlings, who shred through their poor HP. I suck it up and accept the Reaper losses. The mission has another impossible bonus objective, 2 infestors that provide 1 Zerg research each. Despite being the cause of this infestation, I have to let them live. Once my economy is going, it's a pretty simple process of mass producing during the night and queuing attacks against buildings during the day. Welcome to the Jungle is a mission that I never look forward to. It's hard, but I do have a trick. If you've watched the Wings of Liberty glitch video, you know what I'm about to do here. After massing up a blob of medics, I send my SCV to the gas geysers on the left and start collecting. Cancel each once and boom, the enemy defense waves won't try to help. The mission is halfway done and it only cost me a few medics. Welcome to the Jungle is a mission whose difficulty scales very high over time. Getting half of the Terrazine early means that's much less of a problem. At the 12-minute mark, I pull everything that I have, including my SCVs and command center, to the mid-right, and harvest the final 3 Terrazine. My medics will die, but the extraction process will end before the Protoss can kill my extractors. Once the Terrazine is harvested but not delivered, I YOLO my remaining forces into the bonus objective and move past a surprisingly reasonable mission. After the mission is completed, I do something that I've never in my challenge running life done before. I head to the laboratory and get one of the worst upgrades in the game, Vanadium Plating. This upgrade is so bad that despite being the durability upgrade, your army survivability is almost always increased more by its competing ultracapacitors because dead enemies can't do damage. Well, today, attack speed is useless and 51 HP SCVs are on the menu. Feeling confident, I decide to head to the Great Train Robbery. This was a bad idea. The escorts continue to kill my Reapers. I run out of money and my walls are broken by enemy attacks. After losing a few times, I feel stuck. The only other planet I can go to is the Dig, where there's a 0% chance I can win with my current tools. After thinking, I come to a realization about what I need. If only I could get it right now. Each planet in StarCraft 2 has prerequisites to unlock. In this case, if I want to unlock the Spectre, I have to finish Welcome to the Jungle and then complete 2 missions. I have to go back, really far back. I open my saves and return to the end of Mission 5, losing half of my progress in the run. I head directly to Belshir, redo Welcome to the Jungle, then the Evacuation, then Outbreak. This leaves me where I was, with the dig and trains as my two options, this time accompanied by New Folsom, which I promptly get stuck on. I only have Tosh, who's supposed to dismantle the enemy defenses for AI Raynor to beat. If the rules allowed me to deal damage to enemies without killing them, this would be easy. If I could attack enemy buildings, it would be simple, but with the current rules, I'm out of luck. Tosh is useless. I tried running past stuff, but failed. I tried using Tosh to tank for Jim, but siege tanks weren't interested in that. And then I tried going to the Nova mission and had no luck there either. At this point, my stream was ending for the day and I was really frustrated. I was facing 3 missions which all looked impossible. That night, I had one final idea to test. If it didn't work, I was considering calling off the run. So I left the mission running overnight. It turns out that after only 4.5 hours, Jim will figure out how to win on his own. And it only took him over 3,000 kills. Thanks, Jim! The Spectre is an incredible unit for many reasons. The ultrasonic pulse ability can stun enemies but deals 0 damage. Permanent cloaking means that the Spectre can move around unharassed, and most importantly, the Spectre can use hold fire to put his gun away. Finally, I can have someone on the field who doesn't shoot people. Feeling confident, I head to the Great Train Robbery. This was a great decision. A mixed force of Diamondbacks and Spectres crushed through the first train as I build up a Spectre force. I then managed to kill 4 whole trains without any issues, and then my base died. It turns out that killing a train without taking down the escorts causes the now unemployed escort army to rush my base. There was too much I couldn't repair and was broken, but not before getting about 20 Spectres. I lift my command center, flee to a high ground position, and rely on my standing army to finish things off. And they nail it. The Spectre does bonus damage to the armored trains, making quick work of them. After my base is dead, my hunch that the AI couldn't find my command center was correct, and the entire army decides to come hang out with my Spectres instead. This is really annoying and makes moving my army about much more of a chore. Once the trains are speed boosted, I utilize my Spectre's Psionic Lash ability. Generally, this skill is difficult to get value out of due to the high charge up time, but here it absolutely deletes the trains. It's awesome. After dodging the final train's Raven and sniping it, the mission ends with 21 kills? At this point, I can't even begin to explain my hatred of this mission. I thought that maybe my Diamondbacks accidentally killed something, but there's no way that they killed 21 somethings. Then I thought maybe it was the train cars, but there are 5 cars per train for a total of 40. Why would it only be 21? After extensive testing, I found that it has something to do with the train's shared health pool. Every train car that is damaged counts as a kill, while any car that is not attacked in any way doesn't. This was a really weird one, but it's sort of neat being able to troubleshoot these absolutely bizarre and completely pointless bugs. I hope you like Spectres because we're going to be seeing a lot of them for a bit. Safe Haven's next, and it's actually depressing how simple this one is. Make a Spectre, send it to a point with no detection, and attack Nexus 1. Proxy a barracks down south, float it into the Protoss base, and make another Spectre, attack the southern Nexus. Once Nexus 1 is down, send that first Spectre to the middle Nexus, and click on it. Once the Purifier is vulnerable, Vikings outrange it, and win. What a joke. Also, the Purifier Mothership counts as a kill just so I can be a bit more disappointed with the mission. After Safe Haven, I've finally gotten to 10 Zerg research. This gives me the Planetary Fortress, because nothing says love and peace like upgrading your main building to have a giant gun. Let's head to Cutthroat and teach Colonel Orlan the meaning of pacifism. Instead of fighting Orlan for 6,000 minerals, I take the easy path. I lift off my buildings, build an engineering bay, and float over to my opponent. I nestle my command center right up against Orlan's planetary fortress and make my own, and then proceed to win the mission in under 4 minutes. It's just that easy. With Cutthroat complete, Engine of Destruction unlocks. I knew this mission would either be totally impossible or a free win. After Tychus blitzed his way to the Odin with only medic support, I rally SCVs to repair him for the rest of the mission, and he wins. After that, I head to Media Blitz to hopefully continue my Odin luck. I could not beat Media Blitz, so I head to the Dig, another mission that I've been dreading. This mission is required for campaign completion, so I have no way to avoid it, and more importantly, a huge trove of research in the Protoss missions is behind the Dig. I know the first 3 Protoss missions are free wins, making it very appealing. First is a no-build segment, which gets me running past some gateway units, finding a field of photon cannons which shred my forces, and finally a couple of stalkers to put on the pain. By the time I reach my base, I have next to nothing left. And even worse, one of the stalkers from that sequence is attacking me. In fact, after restarting a few times, it's impossible to not be attacking me. I'm gonna have to spend the next 25 minutes repairing this mercenary compound. The next bits of the mission are rough to figure out, requiring a very precise build order. I place defensive engineering bays in front of the entrances to my base while I start Spectre production. The Protoss attack hard and fast, so I can't dilly-dally. Each Spectre gets his attack turned off and then holds formation, making a wall. I finish the wall on the north side, but Spectre production is slow, and it's not all I have to do. Air raids will eventually come. There are no void rays on this difficulty, but there are warp prisms. Once deployed, each prism will spawn units forever, so I have to wall off the drill with buildings while finishing my second Spectre wall. This worked for a bit, but once the second air raid arrived, there were too many Protoss. I couldn't handle the pressure and died. I played with the idea of dropping structures under every warp prism to block their ability to warp in, but many of them are on unbuildable terrain, so that idea is broken. The warp prisms will kill me if they deploy. That's a fact. So I have to passively ask them to stop deploying. In my next attempt, as the prisms come in, I tried stunning them. Most of the time in StarCraft, AI commands are fairly robust. For example, if you ultrasonic pulse an attack wave, it will continue on its merry way after the stun wears off. This is apparently not true for the Warp Prism event. Once the stun expires, the Warp Prisms simply hang around for the remainder of the mission. The only problem is that the prisms arrive quickly and from many angles. If one deploys, it's game over. This is where I get to use a technicality. Because we're not playing on Brutal, the default game speed isn't actually faster, it's normal. I generally play on faster because that's what I'm used to and that's what Ladder plays on. But as far as Blizzard is concerned, that's not correct. I drop the game speed, land the Mind Blasts, and then return it to faster and move on. I generally don't like changing game speed. It's the first time I've ever done this in one of my runs, but the entire thing was so absolutely disorienting that I needed the help. Once the prisms are disabled, I get to wait. Normally there are bonus objectives to get Protoss research from Xel'Naga vaults, but at this point bonuses are just a sick joke that I'll never be allowed to have, because my pacifism apparently extends to inanimate ancient artifact storing vaults. Eventually some Long Zealots walk over my Spectres and start causing trouble, but the single target damage is low enough that I can repair through it until the door is broken. With the dig done, Zeratul arrives, gives me a rock, and tells me to get some Protoss research from his memories. I kindly oblige. The first 3 Protoss missions are quick, easy, and have troves of research. 10 Zerg and 8 Protoss research will effectively double what I currently have. As I blink my way through Whispers of Doom without a care in the world, I pass the Broodlord section and reach the arena. The arena has the only non-objective required kill in Wings of Liberty. The Giant Grant Games community spent hours trying to figure this out. The mission has always felt a bit broken to me. There are many parts that can be completely bypassed with Blink. We looked for every way to gimmick our way past this encounter, eventually checking the game's triggers to confirm that it is required. There's no getting around it. In order to progress, the ground units here must be killed. I was so close to having my precious research. I was this close to greatness. But my hopes have been dashed and my day has been ruined. I head back to the Hyperion, not knowing nearly enough about Zerg biology. Damn. The Moebius Factor is not special nor particularly beloved. Destroy 3 data cores and rescue the stranded allies. But for a weird reason, this is one of the most optimized missions in StarCraft 2. When the 10th anniversary achievements released, the new achievement on Moebius Factor was bugged. It was a speedrun achievement, but because of poor design, it required the player to finish the mission faster than the actual speedrun route at the time. Furious at being unable to get their achievement, a huge number of people crowdsourced ideas to optimize this mission, breaking the world record at the time. I can't exactly do what they did, but any mission that can be finished in 3 minutes is not going to involve much killing. The first data core is a joke. I fly my starting troops over, grab the nearby allies, and target it down. Some mutas do come to play, and unfortunately I have to lose a bait medevac as I evacuate. The second core is incredibly cheesable. I grab a Reaper in the medevac, drop it behind the core, and he kills it without issue. Well, there was one issue. He kept killing this random cocoon doodad every time that I dropped him, causing a bunch of resets. That was pretty rude. For the final core, I move my medevacs around the map, find the stranded allies, sneak to the objective, and squeeze my infantry behind the core to target it down. Oh, and the bonus objective, it's a Brutalisk again, and I can't kill it again. Great. In every challenge run, there's a key mission, one that rises above and beyond the rest of the run in difficulty, complexity, and time required to beat, like the End of Eternity in Night Elf Deathless, or the Crucible in Zerglings Only. But Pacifist is a whole nother beast. we will have not one, not two, but 3 insane missions, and Media Blitz is first. After fleeing for 4.5 minutes during what's supposed to be a sneak attack, I get a base and the insanity begins. Well, not quite. The insanity actually began a while ago. I spent about an hour and a half making cracks at this mission when I initially unlocked it, but concluded I just didn't have the upgrades to do it at the same time. I scrapped it and came back later with a plan. There are 3 main problems in this mission. The first is the levels of enemy aggression. The mission is designed around the Odin crippling at least one of the enemy bases. Each base alternates attacking, and if all 3 are alive, they strike quickly and often. The second problem are the broadcast towers themselves. Their objectives I have to hold for 1 minute each, and they're positioned inside of those enemy bases with a legion of pre-placed defenders and spawn-in reinforcements. And the third problem is money. I have 1 base with a fairly light mineral load. The other 2 expansions on the map have already been claimed by the Dominion, and I don't think they want to share. I tried and failed a lot of different things here. I honestly had too many ideas to explain, but most everything I tried failed. In the end, this is what I came up with for each broadcast tower. I start by dropping 2 additional command centers. I'm going to need a few SCVs here. Meanwhile, I tech into Spectres and the Hercules simultaneously, and then the attacks start to come. The beginning isn't that much. Hellions don't deal high damage to buildings, but it marks the beginning of a permanent resource drain. Once I've filled 2 Hercules with a combined 60 SCVs, I head off to my first target. This tower is the most accessible of the 3. Instead of being nestled near the edge of the map, it's quite vulnerable. I send the Odin in as a distraction while the Hercules charges the objective. Once he arrives, the SCVs power drop and use advanced construction to make an engineering bay. And then they repair. And this is where the money issues start. There's a weird quirk with StarCraft 2 that causes repairing to sometimes be considerably more expensive. When a building is repaired, it takes 1/4 of the price to go from 1 HP to full. This means that an engineering bay takes 27 hit points per mineral, but there's a problem. If an SCV repairs less than 27 HP, it still costs 1 full mineral, no matter how little repairing is done. That means when there are many little units attacking an engineering bay, and many SCVs are required to repair it, it'll repair 1 or 2 HP repeatedly and take 1 mineral every time. This drains my resources quickly, but it was worth it. The engineering bay holds, the broadcast completes, and my second Hercules never even had to drop reinforcements. The second tower is tricky in another way. I can't afford to do the mass repair strategy 3 times, and this base has siege tanks who will slaughter my workers, so I have to mix it up. I go with a group of Spectres. The plan is to infiltrate with Cloak, stand on the objective, and finish it off unseen. There's only one problem. The enemy has detection, and I can't kill it. But there is a workaround. This base has siege tanks who will slaughter my workers. I scan the area to reveal the nearby turrets and then drop mules one at a time next to them. The enemy siege tanks blow them up, and then the splash damage from the attack hurts their own missile turret. After enough mules, the turrets start going down. Around this time, the pressure against my base is getting high. Reaper's anti-building attack is difficult to repair against, and Banshees do a lot of damage as well. Once the turrets have been demolished by the enemy's reckless attacking, I move my forces into position and show off once again why I got the Spectre instead of the Ghost. The defense waves always spawn 1 Raven to detect cloaked units. I move 2 of my Spectres to intercept it, and chain stun it with ultrasonic pulse until the upload completes. At this point, I have 2 of 3 objectives done, and I'm broke. My mineral fields are depleted, and I have no money to make an engineering bay or to repair. I'm dead. Unless I grab my SCVs and Hercules, lift one of my command centers off, and head to my opponent's base. For the remainder of the mission, I share the base with my opponent. They aren't a big fan of this idea, but I managed to get them attacking my orbital command instead of SCVs, so it's a net profit. For the final objective, well, this happens. Enemies and get them killed. Then we go boom, boom.
Strike Team Alpha, engage. Stop them.
Power build, power build, power repair. You hold position here. Come on, come on, come on, baby, come on. More mules. Stop repairing these guys for a bit. Less guys on repair is more efficient repairing. They repair each other. Keep dropping the mules. Keep dropping the mules. Yes!
That's the last one. Let's see what the people will think of their beloved emperor now.
I hate that mission. Media Blitz was absolutely insane. And of the 3 super difficult missions in the run, it was by far and away the easiest. Oh no. At this point in the run, I'm desperate for research. Normally by now, I would have 25 points in both Protoss and Zerg laboratory research, having both maxed out. But because of the plethora of bonuses that involve murder and being unable to do the Protoss missions, I'm sitting at 10 Protoss research and 15 Zerg. In a desperate attempt to get some more, I head to the optional secret mission, Piercing the Shroud. This is a no-build mission, and it's going to hurt. My first major problem are these doors. Jim's breaching charges are slow and clunky. Getting through the first 2 doors leaves my forces almost completely dead. The first reset fest is this hallway. There's a computer terminal on the far side of it, with infantry all throughout. The only solution I found to this was to use the Zerg units from the previous room. I run Jim in front with medics and Marine following, bait the Zerg onto the first couple infantry and take them out. After passing a large group, I head up the ramp and sacrifice my Marine as fodder. In the next room, I can release Zerglings, Zealots, or Ultralisks to fight. I pick the Zealots, sneaking past during the chaos. Now I'm in a bit of a bind. The garage is next, which is remarkably well defended. I can't just waltz through it. I also need the first Protoss relic, which is in the room currently infested with Zealots. But both of these problems might cancel each other out. I use Jim's tanky dad bod to pull the Zealots into the first section of the garage. They take down a Viking, a tank, and some Marines. The final garage dive is insane. The Ares Warbot is supposed to act as a timed summon to help me through the area, which I guess it's still going to do, but it's not enough alone. I gather up the rest of my Zealot buddies, pull them with me, activate the areas to charge, and the combination of the Warbot's health and Zealots provide exactly enough tanking that Jim can hide in a corner like the hero he is, after about 20 failed attempts. To finish off the section, our hero chaotically charges in circles through a room, reaches the reactor objective, blasts it, and then dies. The things I do for Protoss research. After trying again with a slightly improved route, Jim takes a generator down, weirdly increasing his kill counter by 1 despite being a building. And then the escape sequence begins. I walk out of the facility. Normally there are a bunch of pieces of rubble blocking the paths, but because I can't use any of the weapon pickups that I grabbed on enemies, I can vaporize these blocks with no issue. I remember to pick up the Protoss research on the way and jump into the Hercules. And as is tradition by now, the kill counter bugs out. 0 enemy units killed, 4 enemy units killed by Raynor. Doors and the reactor are apparently considered enemy units, but only on Jim's personal kill count. Supernova is another 4 Protoss research, and with the tools I have, it should be a pretty easy win. I wall off my ramp, build some Hercules dropships, and send my units on a sprint to grab the bonuses. Once the Hercules are complete, I grab the Siegebreaker mercenaries and charge up to the top side of the map. Once there, I drop this low ground ravine, siege up my tank, and kill the objective, giving me 1 kill. Remember in Wings of Liberty Deathless where the cinematic at the end kills off units and counts as units lost? Well, it looks like that applies to killing enemies as well. I redo the drop, mash the escape button to skip the cutscene completely, and end with 0 kills. Maw the Void is really annoying. Not because the mission is hard, but because the intro segment is dumb. The Ritfield generator does damage over time to unshielded targets. To get to the rest of the mission, I must kill 3 stalkers and the generator. I tried to be cute here, reducing the stalkers' shields to 0 and letting the field do the rest of the work. But for some reason, the game gives me the credit for these kills. That's not fair. My plan for the mission itself is simple and pretty fun. I wall off my ramp, build a couple of battlecruisers, and rescue the Dark Templar on the map for bonus research. I then pick him up in a Hercules, stealthily move my force down the bottom of the ramp, and distract the Protoss with my battlecruisers while I doom drop the Dark Templar onto the objective. It works really well, but I am still salty about getting credit for the 3 stalkers that I didn't actually kill. The second nightmare mission is Gates of Hell. The mission has a very interesting mechanic where I somehow have to get up to 100 supply without... oh, I lost already. Yup, the enemy attacks at the 18-second mark, and never stops. This isn't even a problem of my army killing stuff, it's a problem of actually getting fortifications up in time. I spend the first 40 or so minutes on this mission figuring out where each enemy attack wave comes and then walling it off exactly before it arrives. In order to fund this, I had to grab every mineral pickup around the map and send much of my starting army to grab it, which reduces my supply by quite a bit. That's a problem because the entire objective here is to get to 100 supply. The mission is very similar to 0 Hour, but on steroids. Generic Zerg units attack my walls and I have to build a giant pile of medics to distract the flyers that will eventually kill me. The problem is the matter of scale. I have less mineral fields than on 0 Hour and there's more Mutalisks. Luckily, I have 4 engineering bays sitting around, so getting my infantry armor upgrades is pretty accessible. At this point, I have to reach 100 supply to cause Warfield's ship to land in the mission to progress. Normally rescuing allied drop pods is the easiest way to do this, but I can't go anywhere right now. Each drop pod force is gonna get slaughtered and I can't do anything about it. During this learning experience, I get slaughtered over and over. The Zerg start banking up a huge number of banelings at each wall. If they wiggle around enough and start connecting, I just die. I reset and hope it doesn't happen again. Medics are a nice unit to be building here. They're actually the lowest mineral per supply unit in the Terran arsenal, allowing me to more reasonably hit that 100 supply mark. While I defend, I tech up to Spectres. Gates of Hell has a weird quirk to it. If you lose all of your buildings but still have units alive, the game keeps going. Everything must die for you to be defeated. My plan is to drop Spectres with orbital strikes on Warfield's side of the map and then take out the Nidus Worms with Psylash while cloaked. After about an hour and a half of attempting this mission, I miraculously managed to reach 100 supply with a single Spectre across the map, and learn that as soon as he attacks the Nidus, the enemy sends in an Overseer to detect him. After a bit of testing and refinement, I find that if I Psylash the Nidus and then retreat, the Overseer will eventually reset. This is great. My base may be gone, but my 2 Spectres can slowly eliminate the objective. If each lash costs 150 energy, and each Spectre needs a total of 9 lashes for me to win the mission, and energy regenerates at 0.56 energy per second, that means I'll win at the 50-minute mark. Annoyingly, the enemy attack waves might not be able to see me, but they do know exactly where I am. They walk over to my Spectres and surround them, and now I can't move. So that's cool. At this point, I'm over an hour and a half into the mission, but I have a solid save where I'm stable enough to change up my build order and still survive to the 100 supply mark. I end up on a strategy of building 2 Spectres across the map and then finding money for 1 more Spectre on the base side. My logic is that the enemies will see the Spectre near my base and then hug that one instead of my useful ones while they wait out that 50 minutes to win. This works great until I learn that the Zerg sends Overseers at the 18-minute mark and I need a new plan. I then chain reset this part for over an hour, trying to figure something out, anything. I go long past the normal end time of my stream, determined to end this today. And then what I find might be the dumbest thing ever. You see this pillar right here? If you use Orbital Strike to deliver a Marauder onto it, it can attack 2 of the Nidus Worms without being seen. Remember when the Spectres would attack the Niduses and the Overseer would come? The Overseer that can absolutely spot the high ground? It turns out he just doesn't care if it's a Marauder, he's on break. The Marauder finishes off 2 of the Niduses on his own, and with only a single worm for the Spectres to take down, they easily finish off the mission. After a quick 3.5 hours. In order to honor this brave Marauder that made the impossible possible, I let Twitch chat name our champion. Thank you, Maurice the Marauder. You are someone we should all strive to be. Gates of Hell was pain, and it's obvious that All In is going to be suffering. And sandwiched between them is Shatter the Sky. As the penultimate mission of this exceptionally difficult run, it's only reasonable to assume that this is a dreadful slog. But it's not. It's really easy. One of the easiest missions in the run. There are 4 coolant towers around the map. Each is defended by a progressively stronger group of enemies, which is good because the first coolant tower can literally be killed by the 2 starting Banshees in this safe spot. The southern tower is well defended against air, but has a glaring weakness. I use Orbital Strike to deliver a Marine right next to the objective, and the defending Scourge and Corruptors can't hit it. After fortifying my flanks with engineering bays, I send 4 battlecruisers to the anti-ground platform, ignore the few Hydralisks, and only have a single platform remaining. This final objective takes an astonishing 6 battlecruisers to take down. Shatter the Sky was the calm before the storm. I spent over 15 hours working on Pacifist All In. It is, without a doubt, the most difficult thing I have ever attempted. First off, why the Nidus version instead of air? Well, air is completely impossible. There are too many stacking Mutalisks, and Broodlords hit like trucks. And eventually the Leviathan arrives, who will rapidly spawn flyers forever, resulting in a quick game over. The first challenge I faced was getting to the 2-minute mark. Attacks don't come as quickly as Gates of Hell, but with 5 paths to defend, I can't get my fortifications up quickly enough. After a lot of trial and error, I ended up memorizing the attack order, dropping an engineering bay down each of the lanes at exactly the time the attack arrives and using the constructing SCV to repair it, while back at home I get my walls set up. I also dropped 2 additional command centers. That's the magic number for All In. With 2 extra mules, you will be able to mine out the map almost exactly when the mission ends, maximizing yield. The enemies at my wall are pretty damaging, but the real problem are the Nidus Worms. If I can't find an answer to them, I will lose. I didn't actually go into this mission with a plan for the Nidus worms. In fact, I came here with pretty much no plan whatsoever. Here's a map of the Nidus spawns, starting at 5 minutes, and every few minutes afterwards, the enemy spawns 1 Nidus in the orange area, 1 Nidus in the green area, and 2 outside of my base. Each of these unload enemies every few seconds as long as they remain alive. My first thought was to create a trap. StarCraft uses seed-based RNG, similarly to most games. If you save and reload without restarting the mission, the random results you get will be the same. My plan is to wait until the Niduses are about a minute away, save the game, and then watch where they emerge. Reload the save, and then build a jail around the area, creating a hole exactly the size of a Nidus worm. It'll have no room to unload and be dormant. It turns out the units aren't actually loaded into the worm on this mission, but instead are spawned via a trigger in the nearest open space to the worm, teleporting across buildings or any other gap. In my testing, I did learn something though. If a Nidus is supposed to spawn in a spot and that area is blocked, it'll instead spawn in the nearest 2x2 open space. This means I do have the power to manipulate the Nidus spawns. This brings me to my second plan. Force every in-base Nidus to spawn outside of my base. I map out the perfect build order for the first 5 minutes of the game, building a network of mercenary compounds around my base, blocking the majority of spawn locations. Looking at the spawn map again, my goal was for the orange zone Niduses to naturally spawn on the left or right side, a 2/3 chance, while the green zone Niduses spawn close enough to my wall that the nearest legal location is outside. I have to reset a few times, but it works! The first wave of Niduses are dealt with, and I have a full force of SCVs repairing the walls and a perfect economy. After holding on for a few minutes, the second wave of Niduses erupt, and the Niduses aren't unloading. After some investigation, I found that there are 3 Zerg players on the map: west, northeast, and northwest. The Nidus worms won't spawn any more units when the northwest player is supply blocked. I don't know why this is, and I don't care. I might actually be able to beat this mission. This is great. I've been doing the math, and if I had to get the correct RNG for every Nidus spawn, it would have been about a 1 in 500 chance, with a full mission reset every time it failed. This makes things much more reliable than that. With this strategy, I managed to survive all the way until my next problem, Kerrigan. And what a problem she is. I can't let her attack my buildings. Kerrigan does 150 damage per shot to structures. At best, this drains my cash rapidly, but more likely, she just kills the building. This is technically against the rules, but I have to kite her. And this is where things move a little bit away from reality and get theoretical. In No Production Wings Liberty, I talked about my idea to kite Kerrigan. Both Marauders and Reapers can attack Kerrigan and then get away before she can respawn. In theory, if I were to use an unupgraded Reaper to attack Kerrigan and kite her perfectly around this rock and then wait for as long as possible to pull her again, she will regenerate all of her HP before taking damage a second time. It's an infinite kite. This is required because at the 18-minute mark, Kerrigan unlocks the area damage spell Razor Swarm. As soon as she gets this, if she's attacking a wall, she will kill my SCVs and I will die. So how hard is it to kite Kerrigan for the entire mission? This is what the game looks like near the end. To reach the 30-minute mark, it took my computer well over an hour to process. Due to the sheer mass of units, I'm getting below 1 frame per second. And to cap everything off, there just isn't enough money on the map to repair until the end of the mission. It's not even close. If I want to beat this mission, I'm gonna need the most gimmicky cheese in history. Here is my plan. I do the same Nidus strategy as before and then place buildings on the entire high ground area near the artifact with the exception of the exact top of the ramps. I then re-roll until the Nidus worms erupt from those areas, creating a perfect wall to the artifact. This wall would be owned by the enemy, so they can't attack it nor can they pass it. The first 4 southern Niduses must also spawn in a wall on the low ground so that Hydras can't attack it from there. If I get all of these Nidus spawns, I can then lose everything, and the Zerg cannot touch the artifact. So what are the chances of this happening? The first Nidus that spawns on the outside of my base and each high ground Nidus each have a 1 in 3 chance of spawning in the correct location. There are 7 of them. And in testing, 4 low ground Niduses have about a 1 in 2 chance of spawning in the correct location. The odds of getting the exact Nidus spawns that I need without fail are 1 in 34,992. Well, that's pretty crazy, but at least it's a number that fits inside the confines of human understanding, right? Nope! Then I learned the most devastating truth of all. The game has a system to prevent Nidus worms from spawning next to other Nidus worms. If it rolls a location near one, it will re-roll up to 5 times to find a more open location. This means that 7 of the 11 Niduses I need to make have to make their roll 5 times in a row. All of this together results in requiring me to get a 1 in 3 chance 22 times in a row, and a 1 in 2 chance 16 times in a row, without a single failed roll between them. So what are the odds of this happening? 1 in 2,589,522,535,424. Assuming every trial run goes perfectly except for the RNG of the Niduses, and the average reset takes around 12 minutes, that means having a 50-50 chance of getting these odds would take 47 billion years. So, is it possible to beat StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty as a pacifist? Yeah, eventually. Thanks for watching. If you think I don't upload enough and want more Giant Grant Games content, consider checking out my daily uploads channel, Giant Grant Games Archives. It used to be a place where I just dumped my Twitch VODs, but recently it has evolved into a place that I play custom series for YouTube. If you're looking for challenge run content, the Modern Mindhawk made a special gauntlet of Wings of Liberty challenges that are obscenely difficult for me to play through. And if you're looking for something a bit more casual, I'm also playing through Mass Recall, a remake of StarCraft 1 in the StarCraft 2 engine. Both of those are linked in the description below. With that said, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.